Going to discuss with Jerry Gidel the new USDA's WASDE report numbers and the market reaction on that right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, the markets didn't react very well to the report that showed all plantings going down.
Well, yeah, it's interesting in the fact
Excuse
that,
me, not the plantings, but the yields going down.
yes, yes. Well, yes, it's kind of two-sided here. We ended up having the yields go down, and to some extent, they were slightly lower than the trade expectations. So the quick first reaction we had for all the markets was that they went higher. But they didn't last very long. It was less than 5 minutes, and they were already back down because they were also switching around and looking at the ending carryover stocks, and then all three of them increased, which is always interesting. They at this point, the end of the season here for old crop and for corn and soybeans, and wheat's been off to a sluggish start. We did have another decent exports this week, so we had two of them in a row. But the World Board decided that maybe there was something going on here. But geez, around the world, we had reports that China was having more weather problems over there. India's thinking about importing wheat. We still had problems in Canada with dryness up there on wheat. So, there it is. And, so it's going to be real interesting because this whole Black Sea conflict continues to slowly ratchet up here. And boy, oh boy, that could have an impact on wheat, of course, and also corn. And so those are the things that are quite interesting as we go forward. But each of the individual markets had their ups and downs today.
Yes, and what was your big surprise on the report?
Actually, I'd have to say the looking at the corn numbers today. Actually, the USDA did take it back down to that 175 area there on that. But the real twist of it is that they went ahead and decreased their demand levels for the coming year. And we also decreased even the old crop numbers here. I realized that the corn exports were pretty sluggish, and I thought they would be to 25 to 50 lower. And that on the old crop, that didn't really surprise me. The food number was off a little bit, but when they went ahead and had really 209 million worth of decline here in production, they ended up only taking 61 million off of the ending stocks out there. And I think the trade was about 50 or 60 million less on stocks, and same on me. Actually, that was even another 50 or so out there. Yeah, I'm not sure there's really anything to point to specifically why they're going to have lower exports. I know that if things just turn a few notches here in the Black Sea, that corn number could easily go down, or excuse me, come back up real easily. And I actually thought they might raise the thing because of the tensions in Black Sea, and that didn't happen. And they also took off feed usage. It just seems like they were kind of decided they didn't want to change the carryover stock all that much on corn. I think that was the biggest surprise for me. Soybeans, that's the other big one, of course, that comes out today. We had actually from versus the trade, we're at 2 or 3/10 of a bushel less. I was looking at 51. They were looking at 50.9. That's kind of interesting. The only reason That's 95 million off. That's a pretty hefty adjustment out there. Interestingly enough, the Illinois numbers were taken off. We did, surprisingly, now you got to remember last year's yields were pretty low out there in the West. So even if the numbers were slightly or higher than last year, they were not back to some of the traditional numbers that we have in some of these states, particularly Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska. Missouri got beat up pretty good because of their dry weather on soybean yields and that. But surprisingly, these numbers in their individual states were slightly better because our average is 50.9 against last year's 49.5 from there. So that was interesting one. And then the same thing they did in corn. They went ahead and took 25 million off of exports. I don't know. I guess their optimism is that Argentina is going to come back with a big crop. I think they will come back. There's still a lot of issues in Brazil for next year. If El Nino does crank up, that could have a big impact on the Mato Grosso and the northern parts of Brazil. That's a tradition that has happened in the past, and we'll see if that happens. But that's those two were kind of interesting. Wheat, they had some big adjustments. They took spring wheat down pretty sharply. They increased the soft red wheat and winter wheat and that. And then the same thing again. They took another 25 million off of exports on wheat, considering that we're down at extremely low levels and the world's at very tight situations. It seemed like to me that they were overly cautious on demand at this stage of the game. But yeah, right now, as we go forward here, the markets are still going to be looking at production around the world and what things are happening there in the Black Sea, because that is still a very emotional situation where Ukrainians at this point have started to retaliate a little more directly towards Russia than after they get a few salvos over their heads. They're willing to return the fire, and we'll see if that continues. That could easily reduce more of the Black Sea's corn and wheat output to the world.
Yes, and what are you seeing as outside factors for the markets right now of corn and soy?
Well, they ended up, we just discussed the whole conflict out there in the Black Sea. That's a big factor. Of course, we're going to have to be watching our U.S. weather. We've got a chance here in the Chicagoland area for some kind of heavy-duty rains tonight, tomorrow, but then there's not much the next week. And the end of the week, month, they're talking about limited moisture out there. The one thing is this market's going to, I think, to some extent, want to see maybe a little bit better boots in the ground reports here going forward. We were out there last weekend, and we did see nothing. We saw numbers comparable to last year on average, but we saw some very good crops. The first one out of the chute, as you remember, and then we had some very kind of head-scratching ones there in McLean County. It's an area that can have some good crops, no doubt about it. But I think the one thing that might have impacted our two field samples there is that the enthusiasm and the good farm management techniques they've had over the years about getting out there early and planting the corn and maybe getting the crop further along before pollination might damage it and things like that. Well, this year, the above normal temps and the dry weather from May through June, and particularly June, when it downstate down there, I think impacted those two fields. And from there, while somebody that might have planted corn in a different county 2 or 3 weeks later, might have probably is the reason why they've had some stronger yields in some of those other areas. That's anecdotal, trying to anticipate or look at the weather patterns we've had and see what happens. That's going to be important to see how much more that type of situation might have impacted other states too. from there. The big Pro Farmer Tour is still going to be, it's going to be 10 days out. It's going to be the week of August 20th, and that on through the balance of that week. So that'll be another update as to what we see out in the fields at this point. But from the demand side of things, this is the wrong time of year to get the investing community with us at times. A lot of times, if like this situation we had today where the report didn't really had some positives but some negatives, and the carryover stocks suddenly were higher than expected, or even in wheat's case went higher. The big funds and things like that decide, well, we'll come back in September and see what's going on. And sometimes we lose some of our investing public in this thing. So it's going to potentially be kind of a choppy market here for the next 2 or 3 weeks as we sort things out. But I kind of feel like we're at some pretty low levels right now, price wise, and the uncertainties ahead of us should make this market at least right now tread water for next week. And we'll see what the Pro Farmer Tour results from Nebraska all the way through to Ohio. They kind of meet up in Minnesota, but they kind of two legs of it. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what they're coming up with and how they compare with some of what we saw out there.
All right. Thank you very much, Jerry.
All right. It's always good to talk, sir. And I'm glad you came out, man, and all that good stuff. It's a muddy kind of day for us, though. But overall, we got a lot of good information, I think. And so we're ready to go here for the rest of the summer.
All right.